Welcome back. In March this year, Tom Burgess, an investigative correspondent with the London-based Financial Times, published a book entitled The Looting Machine: Warlords, Oligarchs, Corporations, Smugglers, and the Theft of Africa's Wealth. According to one review, The Looting Machine exposes the truth about the African development miracle. Africa accounts for about 14% of the world's population, 30% of the oil and gas reserves and minerals, but the continent boasts of just 1% of global manufacturing between the year 2000 and 2011. In the year 2010, fuel and mineral exports from Africa were worth $333 billion. That's 7 times the aid the continent received. But the question is, who received the money? The summary concludes, what is happening in Africa's resource states is systematic looting. Like its victims, its beneficiaries have names. A few months ago, Nigeria's new president, Muhammadu Buhari, says some $150 billion of his country's money are stashed overseas illegally. He asked for support to bring back the looted funds. In some form, President Buhari has started this recovery exercise. Last week, Tuesday, at the 2016 budget presentation, the president says the recovery of stolen funds will continue, no matter where the funds are hidden and no matter how long it takes. So let's discuss the looting machine and find answers to the question, what is killing Nigeria, corruption or inefficiency, or both? My guest, Bismarck Rwani, policy and economic analyst and the CEO at financial derivatives company, live here in the studios. Thank you very much, Mr. Rwani, for coming this public holiday.
Thanks, boss.
A very interesting book we have here. Let's start with the question. The Looting Machine book. Do you agree with the facts, the figures, and conclusion of the author, Tom Burgess?
Yes, I agree. I mean, if you read it, there was a reference to some of the comments I made about it. But the reality is that the looting of Africa, basically the rape of the continent, is a combination of 3 variables. 1, the primitive accumulation of wealth instinct by Africans. 2, the connivance and active participation by multinational corporations. And 3, the structure which allows for this systematic looting over time. So when you have these 3 variables playing and backed up by an inefficient process, you find that looting becomes the question of the day. And what is happening is that this looting, after a while, compounds itself and becomes like a rape of a nation, of a continent.
Contextualize this book for us, The Looting Machine. Contextualize this for us within the Nigeria's corruption and inefficiency discuss.
Right. Now, let's take a look at Nigeria. Nigeria has an infrastructure deficit of about $400 billion over the years. Nigerian monies that have been stolen over the past 20, 30 years is in excess of $300 billion. Therefore, theoretically, if there was no looting, Nigeria would not have an infrastructure gap. But unfortunately, these monies have gone. That opportunity has been squandered. With the price of oil, you just said it, at $20 a barrel, it will take us another 100 years to get that kind of money back. So you want to have a structure to recover whatever you can recover, but you also want to have a structure that will block leakages and penalize the people that do it so that it becomes bad behavior. Now, what has happened is that Professor Sage was talking this morning about this stupendous rush to steal money towards the election only because the desperation to keep power. And therefore, things had to be done. And those monies are still hot. Those monies are still around. But I don't know how you can find them. Because typically, this kind of monies are invested in fire assets. People take advantage of even the crooks who stole the money. And those crooks take advantage of the fact that you cannot come out and make any claims. So invariably, about 60 to 70% of the money that is looted, plundered out of the country, cannot even be got by the people that plundered it, because they get duped. And because he who comes to equity must come with clean hands, you can't go and sue and say, look, what of the money I stole, I gave to you?
Look at I'm looking at a 2-page review of this book here, and it says that the looting across Africa is accelerating as never before.
Yes.
As global demand for Africa's resources rises, a handful of Africans are becoming legitimately rich.
Yes.
But the vast majority, like the continent as a whole, is being fleeced.
Yes.
So, these
oligarchs. You see, there's stealing, there's looting, and there's taking advantage of the opportunity. That's why I talk about the structure. So just like in Russia, you have oligarchs, and that's why you have 163 private jets that were flying around Nigeria, while general aviation as a whole had only about 90 jets, right? So the income inequality, which is called the Gini coefficient, the level of inequality in Africa is highest apart from some parts of Latin America. Nigeria has a Gini coefficient of about 48.8, even going up to 50, which means that it is highly unequal. 5% of the population of Nigeria takes about almost 40% of the income.
Very quickly, we have just a few minutes left, but again, talk to us about corruption and inefficiency in Nigeria. Which one hurts the most?
I think that, to be honest with you, inefficiency hurts the country more than corruption. Usually, corrupt people take advantage of the system, but they're smart enough to know when to do
because the system is inefficient.
Yes. But to have a honest fool in charge of business means that you lose all of that money, even though honestly. So a honest loss is of no use to anybody. So what you need, pessimistic says that inefficiency plus corruption is lethal. That means it kills an economy. Inefficiency alone can downgrade and degrade an economy, while corruption at certain levels could kill an economy. But if that economy is efficient, they probably can probably survive. But you don't need corruption. You do not need wanton corruption, and you don't need corruption with impunity, which is what we had. Then backed up by inefficiency. Now, what's the answer to this? The answer is that Nigeria needs to clean up its system, but also needs investment. When I say investment, investment brings in revenue, it reduces your debt dependence, and also creates jobs and helps the common man. And I would spend 1 minute to talk about what we're talking about in the green room. That is, let's take a look at, say, the MTN fine, for example. Now, $5 billion is 1% of the GDP. There's no way you can fine somebody 1% of your GDP, one company. You kill the company. It's like putting the company before a firing squad. Is the company culpable? The company is culpable. Have they committed an offense? They have committed an offense. Should they be punished? Yes, they should be punished. But you can compel them to invest that money. Just like community service, you must invest that amount which you would have paid as a fine. So Nigeria gets the benefit of the investment, gets the revenue, gets the jobs, and then put them under watch so that whatever it is, and they will still pay a penalty which will go into the profit and loss account. That way, the company will be encouraged to invest, the people will get the benefit of the productivity, the signal would have been sent that Buhari does not tolerate impunity or any corporate arrogance, and everybody wins.
Two quick questions. Are you encouraged by the inefficiency units that the
efficiency unit?
Yes, the efficiency unit.
Yes, I am encouraged because I know Patonia very well, the lady in charge, and Kule Liberty and the other guys.
So you think that is the right?
No, that's absolutely. It was done in the UK.
It
was done in the UK. What that does, it makes sure that revenues increase. It also has an expenditure monitoring unit, which just like the due process, which obviously requestly. Now, so you cannot just spend, willy-nilly.
Frivolously.
Right. So if you do that, it is believed that at least almost $500 billion, if not $1 trillion, will be raised. And if you take that, add that to the reduced debt service, add that to the subsidy, which is gradually being eliminated, you find that the revenue profile of Nigeria will change dramatically.
One last question. Is it corruption, therefore, or inefficiency? How do we dismantle Africa's looting machine? Is it corruption, or we need to get efficient as a country?
No, first of all, signaling. The fact that the head of state has zero tolerance for corrupt practices, even amongst his own lieutenants, is the first sign. Nobody is going to come up with any silly ideas. If you even run within the cracks and you are found, he's going to get you. So first, signal. Second, structural change. We change the structure, right? So corruption gets minimized. You cannot eliminate corruption, because as long as human beings are there, they will always look for ways. So you've got to go after them and deal with it, reduce it to its barest minimum. At the same time, efficiency. So with efficiency, you get a massive multiplier effect. With the zero tolerance for corruption and punishing them, high-profile naming and shaming. They're going to name all the people that refunded money, and everybody will know who and who are behind it. So that,
as the review of this book says,
yes,
those who did the looting have names.
Yes, they have names.
They have names.
And we are going to
name names.
We are going to reveal those names. The central bank is going to publish those names, and then people will now know that there's a cost. There's a reputational cost. Not just refunding money, there's a reputational cost for corruption.
Very, very interesting. Very interesting you're still reading the hardcover book.
Yes.
Thank you. Still the old school way.
Yes, that's the way. Thank you, both.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your time today. Bismarck Rwani, economist and financial derivatives, economic analyst and CEO at Financial Derivatives Company. We'll be right back.